All right, and I just wanted to welcome everybody. I'm George. I'm the instructional designer and online educator here at VoiceThread. Today's training is more of an advanced training where we're going to talk about some game-based learning principles and talk about how you can apply them to VoiceThread. And I'll show you a little bit of some of the stuff that we went over in the intro session for how VoiceThread works in Moodle, ASU Learn. But before we dive into the fun stuff, I just want to direct you to some resources that are available. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is my VoiceThread homepage. And you can see I have it set to view the basic tutorials. So these are available to everyone who has a VoiceThread account on their homepage through this 3-bar menu. This is where you can filter your homepage view. And as you can see, I have mine set to view the tutorials. There's also the blue help tab down here in the bottom right. And this is your best friend as an educator or somebody who works closely with educators. Anytime you have a VoiceThread question, you can find the answers in our help documentation just by searching with a keyword here. And you can find all the written instructions step by step with some screenshots and tutorials as well. All right. And I do see Katie's asking about linking. For the tutorials, you're saying, Katie?
Yeah, for the tutorials.
Yeah, so I always recommend putting a homepage link in your course, and directing your students to go to that 3-bar menu. But you can also just share the individual tutorials by opening up the sharing menu and getting the basic share link.
Great, thanks.
All right, and in the bottom right corner of the homepage is the About menu where you can contact us if you need to reach support. You can also check out the research that's been done on VoiceThread or visit our blog, which has guest posts from educators around the world who use VoiceThread. And next to that is the training menu where you can sign up for our free workshops. And we do offer them every month throughout the year, a few times a month. You're welcome to join us for as many of those as you like, or you can view the recordings on the right-hand side of the workshop page. All right, so that's the basic idea. I'm just going to go through the creation process briefly, just in case anybody has never created a voice thread before. Like I said, this workshop is intended to be more for advanced users, but just to be on the safe side in case anyone's viewing the recording and they have not seen that creation process, I just want to go through it briefly. So from the homepage, you can create a voice thread by going to the Create tab, and then it's a 2-step process. You need to add your slides and record your comments. So if I click Add Media, I can go through any of these sources. I can record a webcam video slide or add a YouTube link by pasting the link there. But I'm going to go through my computer. So if I click on my computer, I can go through here and find any files that I want to bring in. And these can be images, documents, PowerPoints, movie files, whatever you want. So let's say this is lesson 1. Right now, I could rearrange the order of these just by dragging and dropping the slides where I want. And I can always go back in to add more slides from any of these sources. But if I'm happy with what I have, I'm going to move on to the comment stage. So I'm going to click on comment, and that will open the voice thread up in the media player. So I can click on the plus sign and choose from 5 commenting options: text, telephone, audio, webcam, or file upload. So you can upload an audio or video file that you have saved on your computer if you like, or just use the microphone and webcam on your computer. So I'm going to go with an audio comment. If I click on the microphone, I'm recording. All right, now whenever you record an audio or webcam comment, you will see this pencil. This is what we call the doodle tool. So if I click on this, I can change colors and decide if I want my drawings to fade or not. So I'm going to keep it set to fade, but I'm going to change to red. And now I can annotate on the slide just by clicking and dragging my cursor around so I can highlight whatever it is that I want to highlight. And we're going to talk a little bit about some doodle ideas for game-based learning. So that's an important skill to get used to. And then when I'm done saying whatever it is I have to say, I click stop and I can save my comment after it plays back. The microphone, I'm recording. All right. Now, whenever you record, all right, that sounds good. I click save and my comment is being saved in the conversation channel for slide one. I can then navigate to my next slide and I can continue to record. I'm going to change colors on this doodle pencil because I have a darker slide. So I want this to stand out a little more. All right. And then once again, whenever I'm done, I click stop and I can cancel, save, or record more. Record. I'm going to change. All right. So that's the basics of creating a voice thread. Before we dive into the game based learning stuff, do we have any questions about the creation process? Is there anything I showed that doesn't quite click or something you were hoping to see that I didn't show? You can always put your questions in the chat or feel free to unmute your mic and jump in to ask. All right, well, I don't see any questions yet. If you do have them, let me know. All right, but let's get into some game-based learning stuff. So there's a lot of research about using games in education, and there's a number of reasons why it works well. But primarily, it's a motivating factor. It makes learning more fun, and it provides a little incentive for students. But the one thing I want to start today with is just talking about what a game is. All right. Now, games can be, anything from simple tic-tac-toe to anything that's, extraordinarily complex, like something you might find on a gaming system that takes thousands of hours of coding and all that kind of stuff. But what they all have in common is this basic definition, I believe. So, what I would say a game, the real core of any game is that you're trying to do something before either your opponent does it or time runs out. All right. And I think just about any game will fit in that definition. Now, there's more things you can add on top of that as far as the mechanics of how the game works and strategy and all of that good stuff. But this is the basic core. And I know when I talk to educators about creating games, that's usually a good starting point. So you want to just make it a competitive aspect in some way. It doesn't have to be a head to head competition, it could be a competition against time. But one of these is usually involved. All right. So just to take you through a few examples that you may be familiar with, for basketball, the goal is to score more points than your opponent before time runs out. In tic tac toe, you want to get three in a row before your opponent does. In golf, you want to get the ball in the hole in fewer strokes than your opponent does. And in chess, you want to achieve checkmate before your opponent does, right? So these are just some basic examples, but I think you'll see how the definition kind of maps onto all of these different games, even though these games are all, wildly different in when it comes to strategy and physicality and everything else that you need to add. All right. So one of the other big elements in creating a game is having some type of a leaderboard. So you can create games that could be real assessments where you're evaluating the students and giving them a grade, but you can also do it more for fun. And I think one of the things that people miss frequently is that motivation that you get from the competition. Right? People are naturally motivated to not be in last place, whether or not you're a hyper competitive person who always needs to be, at the top, or you just want to make sure that you can beat your friends or something like that, or beat the computer or beat yourself. Maybe you play solitaire and you want to do better than you did yesterday, right? So there's that natural competition that comes out when you introduce some type of gaming framework. And I think having a leaderboard is something that really helps. So with VoiceThread, you can always add all different types of slides. You can create a slide on PowerPoint that's a leaderboard and add that to your VoiceThread. So I just want to take you through a couple of examples here of games where you can use the doodle tool, and then we'll talk a little more about the leaderboard. So this is one example, and this is a blank map. It has no, it has outlines for countries, but it has no country names or ocean names. So the goal here is to kind of create a quiz where students need to know some geography, some things that you may have taught in class. And all of these games that I'm going to show you are very simple in content, but I just want you to understand the basic concepts here. And then you can kind of scale these up to deeper, richer content that you might teach. All right, so this is just a simple example. I uploaded this slide and I record a comment just like I showed you at the beginning.
Okay, students, for this geography lesson, we're going to start our journey in the country where Gandhi was born. Then we're going to go to a country that used to be called Zaire and now has a different name. And then we're going to end up at the place where the pilgrims landed. Good luck.
All right, so with this, you would ask the students to make a comment, and because this is using the doodle feature, you only have the microphone and webcam allowed here. All right, now the way that I did that was by removing the other options. So when you create a voice thread, you can always go into the options and go into the playback settings, and you can decide which comment methods are allowed. So I have all 5 commenting methods available on this voice thread, but if I was going to create a doodle game, I would only want the microphone and webcam available because those are the 2 features that allow the doodle tool to appear. So I'm going to uncheck the other ones and click save. All right, so now if I went to comment on this voice thread, let me just refresh this. When I go to comment on this voice thread, it will only have those 2 options in the comment fan. Just give it a second to load. I have quite a few voice threads to load here. All right, so you can see now I only have the microphone and webcam available. All right, and that's what you see here. All right, so if I was going to do this, I would click on one of the options, and then I can annotate and say, okay, that's where Gandhi was born. This country used to be Zaire, and the Plymouths landed near Plymouth Rock, right? So I can doodle in that way and annotate as I go through. All right, Ashley's asking about changing the options based on each slide. No, the settings aren't that granular. The settings would be for the voice thread, but you can change, from one voice thread to another. All right, now here's another example, and this one is more of like an elementary math example.
Okay, in this game, we are going to trace a path through even numbers. So I'm going to get you started. Go from the start. The first one is 4, and then you have to decide where to go from there. So trace your way from the start to the end using only even numbers.
All right, so for this same process, right, you would click and choose, and you can annotate as you go through. If I'm doing just the even numbers, right, and then you can adjust this as you need, right? So this could be odd numbers, this could be prime numbers, this could be amicable numbers, this could be factors of 28, whatever it is that you want the students to do, you can annotate in this way. And you could also do the same thing for language, right? So maybe you want to check spelling. Maybe the students have vocabulary and spelling you want to assess on this one. So in this, you have to go through and count from 1 to 10 in Spanish. So you need to record and go, uno, dos, tres, and go through. And there are mistakes here, right? So you can assess whether or not the students get to the path correctly, right? So this is just one format, but there are any number of things that you can put in the boxes, right? So all I did here was just create a slide with a table, and then I filled in the different cells on the table. But these could be reasons listed for uh, the war in Vietnam, or this could be painters, impressionist painters, right? Whatever it is that you want, you can have students go through and lead you through a path, right? So this is um, not really a hardcore assessment, but this is more of a fun way to get some knowledge and have a little competition. You can give out points. So let's say you have 40 students in the class, and maybe the first 10 students get points. So the first student to make it through correctly gets 10, the next student gets 9, the next student gets 8, and so on and so forth. All right, so those are a few options there for doodle games. Now, this one is a pop quiz game, and this was an idea that someone had actually brought to me at a workshop, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, where they said what they do is they throw in pop quizzes. So when you create voice threads, when you create the different types of LTI links in your Moodle and ASU Learn, you have a whole course group automatically created. All right. And that whole course group is on the left-hand side of your VoiceThread homepage. But you could also manually create groups, right? So these work the same way. But what you can do is just drag and drop a VoiceThread into that group. So let's say you have a few pop quizzes that you've created at a random time, or you can give students an alert and say, hey, on Wednesday at noon, I'm going to add a pop quiz every week. So you can give the students incentive to get in there and go into their course group and see what the pop quiz is, and once again give them points based on who gets the answer correct first and who gets the answer correct second, right? And all you need to do, whether it's a manually created group or a course group, is just to take your voice thread and drag and drop it in there. All right. When you drag and drop a voice thread into a group, it'll just double check that you're sharing with the correct group. And if you accidentally dropped it in the wrong place, you can always choose the correct one from the drop down list. You can decide if students should be able to view and comment, which is the default, just view, or if they should be able to edit as well. All right. And then you just click share, and that voice thread will be shared with that group. All right. So going to your homepage, just drag and drop it into the group. And you can do this, like I said, at random points, or you can give the students, a heads up as to when you're gonna drop your latest pop quiz. So for this one, this happens to be a timed game. You can do this timed or not. All right. So I'm gonna just show you how this works first, and then we can discuss how to set up the different timing. All right. So I have a text comment to start.
Okay, for this one, you have 10 seconds to mark and name as many elements as you can. When you mark, get set, go.
All right, so the students can go through here with the doodle tool and mark off each element and give the name helium, hydrogen, lithium, right? Go through all of them, see how many they can name. And you can give points for the student that can name the most in 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever you want to set it to. All right, so to set up a time element on a voice thread, let's say this is the voice thread that I wanted to edit. I go into edit, I go to my playback settings. All right. And now I can limit each comment to a certain amount of time. So I can have this set to 10 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever I want. Set that time limit there and then click save. All right. And the way this will look from the student perspective, when they start recording their comment, they'll see a timer. All right. That timer is ticking. All right. And once it reaches 30, it's going to automatically stop, and it'll give me the option to cancel, save, or record more on this voice thread. All right, so I'm just going to give this a few more seconds to click through. We're up to 20 seconds. All right, but remember, the students can always go in here and edit as they need. They can use the doodle tool. Oh, what did I set that one for? Hold on. Let me go back and check this one. They'll see a timer. All right, that timer is ticking. All right, and once it reaches 30, it's going to automatically stop, and All right, so the students can be timed. So with this one, I click on the plus sign and you see it, my timer is counting down. It's a 10-second timer, right? And it's starting to flash when I get within 5 seconds, and then it automatically stops. All right, and then I can listen to my comment playback. Sign, and you see it, my all right. Now, I showed this to an instructor once before, and what the instructor said was, well, if the student can cancel and re-record, doesn't that enable cheating? And I understand what kind of point he was getting at, but to me, that's not cheating. That's exactly what you want, right? That's not a bug, that's a feature of this. So what you want is the student to listen to it and say, you know what, I can beat that. And you want them to spend time on this trying to get as many as they can. And the instructor said, well, what if the student goes and looks up the answers and then starts to say them? And you say, well, that's what you want. You want the student to spend more time on this and get familiar with this and work on committing this to memory, right? This is part of, what you want for the activity. You want the student to spend time and trying to get as many as they can as they record their answer. So that's kind of the goal here. All right, now here's another example. And this one is from a nurse educator. All right, so what she did, I'm going to just play her comment here and she'll explain this probably better than I will.
Hi, students. Today we learned about blood typing. So I'd like for you to complete this activity. You're the nurse in an ER, and the patient Andrew has just been brought in after being in a car accident. He needs a blood transfusion, and we've already done a type of cross, and we know that his blood type is B positive. Circle all the blood types below that this patient can receive. So using the doodle poll, draw a circle around any of the blood types below that this patient can receive.
All right, so you see she's created this slide. Now, one just thing as an aesthetic point, I would always recommend this is actually a document, so it's a portrait view, but I would recommend having any slides that you have in landscape view just because it fits your computer screen better, which is how VoiceThread is designed to maximize the space. So if she would have put this on a PowerPoint or Keynote slide, it would fill up a little more space and the letters might be a little easier to see. All right, but the student can go through here. Once again, you can see because this is a doodle specific game, she only allowed for microphone and webcam. All right, you can go through here and circle whichever ones are correct. Right now, you can also make this more complex, right? So in addition to having the students circle the answer, you can have them give some reasoning as to why that is. So this could be a simple fact-based kind of assessment, or this could require a little more higher order thinking where you're bringing in some unusual cases and seeing how well the students understand the material. So, I'm not a nurse. I'm not a phlebotomist. I don't I don't know a lot about blood types, but with any subject, there's always ways to get in and build on simple fact-based questions and ask students for more assessments, finding the edge cases, finding the tricky answers, and having students explain why or why not something that normally may be true is not true in this case, right? So you can actually make it more like an essay, even though there is pressure for the student to complete this before the other students so they can get those points. All right. So when it comes to leaderboards, you can have, let's say this was a game and I was going to add a leaderboard to this. I can go into my computer and I can keep track of this on a PowerPoint slide where I just have a simple table with students' names. And then I can import that slide to the VoiceThread. All right. So just give this a second to process. But you'll see this slide is going to appear and it's going to have that leaderboard element to it. All right, so in this one, you can see my leaderboard here. This isn't a very high res image here, but you can see the names of the students and you can see the points. So you can take this and then you can go in and adapt this as you need. So if you wanted to um, have a new, a new score, maybe you keep track of the scores multiple times, you can always go in and you can edit. So you can replace this. If you go to edit a voice thread, you can always replace the slide. If you click on the replace option, you can get in and you can swap this out with anything else that you want, any other leaderboard that you have to update it. And that will replace the slide that you originally had with the new leaderboard. All right. So you can go in and replace any VoiceThread slides that you need. But in this case, if you're continually updating this throughout the week, you can make it easy. Just go open up your PowerPoint or Keynote, make the changes you need, and then upload that slide and replace the previous slide. Right. So that's a way to add that kind of scorekeeping element in there. All right. So those are the examples. I just wanted to show you that kind of pop quiz idea, and you could have that be a timed game as well. The doodle games of various types, and those can be timed as well, right? And that's just a way to bring a little more fun and engagement into the course. So when you want to share this stuff, like I said, you could just drag and drop it into the course group, or you can add these a couple of different ways. So if this is something that you're going to give a grade to, you can add it as an assignment. And if you're not going to give a grade for this, you can add it as an individual voice thread. All right. So I'm just going to take you through those processes, and you can see how to add this stuff. So let's go to one of the modules I'm in. I'm going to click add an activity or resource. I'm going to find VoiceThread in my list here, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to give this a name. So let's call this one Pop Quiz 1. I'm going to select content, and I'm going to go to the individual VoiceThread option, right? Because this one's going to be a non-graded option. So I'm going to click individual VoiceThread. I can go through and find, let's say, a quiz that I have. I click on it. All right, now I can edit the title if I want. Let's call this Quiz Game 1. All right, and I can always go through and add more slides if I need. Click Continue. This is just a last minute check to see if you want to edit any of the comments, but I'm going to continue. All right, now let's say this is a doodle game. So I want to remove everything except for the microphone and webcam options. Right, now you may have a game where you want to allow students to add slides to a thread, right? Maybe they have to go out and find examples of something. So maybe you teach an archaeology and you want to have students find an example of, shelving or something like that, right? Where they're looking at the geological patterns they see. So you can have them add slides to the voice thread as part of the game if you want. You can enable threaded commenting if you want some discussion, some back and forth. You can enable comment moderation. So maybe you don't want the students to see each other's answers, right? So let's say you have a question, a quiz where you're asking a question and there are maybe 10 students that are going to get points, but you have 30 students in the class. So if I am the 11th student to answer, maybe I come in and I see, well, everyone else has already answered, so I'm not going to bother with this. But if you have comment moderation turned on, the students will not see that there are 10 other students who have already answered. So as far as they know, they may be the first one. So they're going to go in there and try as hard as they can to get the correct answer. And any other student that comes in will not see their answer either, right? So that's what comment moderation does. It makes all of the incoming comments to the voice thread hidden. As the instructor, you can see and hear all of them, but the students cannot see or hear each other's. So if you turn on comment moderation, you don't deflate student motivation who comes in, and sees that the other students have already answered. Right now, once again, I can limit the length of each comment. I can set this to whatever number I like, up to 60 minutes. So maybe I'll give them 15 seconds. I can have this start playing when opened. I can have it auto advance. And then we have those additional permissions here. click continue and publish. All right, and then I can save and display or save and return to course. All right, so that's the individual VoiceThread. That's how you add a non-graded VoiceThread, right? Individual VoiceThread is what you use anytime you want to share a VoiceThread with your class that's not graded. But let's say maybe you do want to grade this. I can add that quiz as a comment assignment. So let's say I want to add that here. I'm going to click add an activity or resource. I find VoiceThread in the list and I select it, give this a name. I figure out how many points this should be worth. So maybe this is worth 20 points. I'm going to go select content. I'm going to go into the assignment builder, which is what's going to create that gradebook column. And now I want to go with the comment assignment. So I select comment and continue. I can go in and find that quiz that I want. I can make any changes to the slides.
Testing one.
I can make any changes to the comments. And now I can decide how many comments will be required. So maybe there's only one question on this. So I can say, give me one answer. Right? But I can change this number to whatever I like and make it a minimum number, a maximum number, or an exact number. All right. If students are going to add slides, I can decide how many slides. All right. So maybe I want a minimum of one, or I can make this a maximum or an exact number as well. I can decide which comment types they can use, whether I want comment moderation turned on or not. I can limit the length, right? Just like I can with the individual VoiceThread. These are all the same settings. I continue. I can add my instructions in here. I can pick a start date, a due date. If I want to have a close date, I can add that as well. All right, so students can submit after the due date, but it will show up as submitted late. And if I want to turn the assignment off altogether, I can add a close date in here, and I can decide if I want to allow students to withdraw and resubmit the assignment. All right, so maybe for this quiz game, maybe I won't allow that. And then how do I want to grade this? As a percentage of the total points, as a complete, incomplete, or straight point value. So let's say I'm going to go with straight points. This is worth 20, and I could click publish. All right, now the one other thing I want to show you, this is another option. So I mentioned turning comment moderation on for a game so that students um, aren't demotivated, right? They might see 10 other answers that are there already, and they might say, oh, I'm not going to get the points. Everyone else already got them, so I'm going to skip this one. The other thing you can do is make students complete a prior assignment before completing the next one. So you can have this quiz, this game is contingent on the students completing the previous quiz. So this way the students need to complete each quiz throughout the course. You can just kind of daisy chain these through where you set up a contingency. So the student must complete this quiz before taking the one that they're trying to take. Right, so that way you can kind of funnel them through each game as you go through each week, and the students will have to complete the first one to take the second one, complete the second one to take the third one, and so on and so forth. Yes, Katie, that's for VoiceThread assignments. And then you click publish, and then you can save and return to course or save and display. All right, that is everything I had planned to show you today. Do we have other questions? Is there anything else that you want to see? Anything else that you're not sure about? Any ideas that you want to share? You can always feel free to unmute your mic. You want to? All right, folks. Well, thanks for your time today. I hope you got some ideas about how you can bring some game-based learning into your course. And I'm going to share this recording with Emery in just a little bit. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy voice threading. Take care.